Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another HSI analysis. Today we're looking at the Silver Wolf of the Urals, or just the Silver Wolf if you have not played Honkai Impact. This character is Quantum and Nihility, and honestly, I'll say something right now, we're having a lot of Quantum characters in the 5-star section, not so many in the 4-star section, so maybe that's something that Mihoyo needs to fix in the future, but Quantum Nihility, and we have to understand what that means. Well, if we're taking a look at Nihility, that is a very crucial role, and it's our debuffer role. Is the debuffer, the enemy or the ally that is going to apply either damage debuffs or supportive debuffs to the enemy. Supportive to obviously your own team, like more damage taken, less damage taken, so on and so forth, things like that. So that's what Nihility is. As for Quantum, always love to explain what Quantum is because it's a very crucial thing in the game, Quantum and Imaginary. They do different things. So what Quantum does is, on top of adding its own dot, much like the other, weakness breaks like the other elements, and has its own dot, plus it pushes enemies back in the turn order. Very simple, very straightforward, but outlining that is very important because, well, they do something different, and so we have to know what they do. Now, with the Quantum and Nihility outlined, we can start on the actual Silver Wolf's kit, but I'm going to do this slightly differently because the Silver Wolf has a lot going on in her kit. There's a lot to take in. So I'm going to kind of break her standard kit, excluding Eidolon, so standard kit in about 3 sections. These parts do something completely different. So let's get into that. And the first parts we're looking at is her basic attack and her talent, because those two kind of work together, right? They kind of work together. So taking a look at her basic attack, deal quantum damage equal to a certain percentage, which is just still the standard percentages, of Silver Wolf's attack to a single enemy with a 65% base chance of implanting a random bug into the enemy that lasts for 3 turns. This is actually going to make your basic attack quite viable. Now, this is a 65 base chance, so this is alterable with effect hit rate, and I will say this now, the character is most likely going to do an effect hit rate build. But what do these bugs that you're going to implant on the enemies actually do? Well, that's in the talent. Silver Wolf can create 3 types of bugs. She can create one that reduces the enemy's attack, reduce the enemy's defense, or reduce the enemy's speed, right? She can create those 3 bugs. For every debuff that the enemy attacked by Silver Wolf has, Silver Wolf's damage against the enemy increases by a certain percentage. This stacks up to 5 times. That is the first part of her kit. Her basic attack will potentially apply a bug to the enemy. One of these bugs can be one of the following reductions of a percentage: attack, defense, or speed. Obviously, the most crucial one is probably going to be the defense one, so they take a lot more damage, but speed is always a great one to obviously apply. And then Silver Wolf does more damage the more debuffs the enemy has, and each bug does class as a debuff, so, 3 things for the price of 1, essentially. One of your skills can apply 3 things, but this obviously is buffed further on, but we'll get into that once we get there. That is part 1 of her little standard kit. Part 2 is just her skill, because it does something completely different. So her skill does this: deals quantum damage equal to a certain percentage of the Silver Wolf's attack to a single enemy, with a certain percentage base chance, right? This is increasable, but also it's a base chance, so it also scales with effect hit rate, to add a weakness, one weakness, of the same type as a random ally's attack type on the enemy that lasts for 3 turns. And then also reduce the enemy's damage resistance to that attack type by 20%, right? It's a lot to take in because you're doing something completely new. No other character does anything like this, but I'll simplify it like this. You have a chance with her skill, it's very high chance by the way, but you have a chance to make an enemy weak to something that they're not usually weak to. For example, you're fighting a quantum weak enemy. Their weakness is quantum, but you use, and your party is full of quantum characters and let's say fire characters, right? Then you use the Urals, the Silver Wolf Lady's skill on that enemy, and it applies this weakness. That weakness then will most likely be a fire weakness, and you've just applied fire weakness to them for 3 turns, as well as made them take more damage because you've reduced their damage resistance to that attack type by 20%. That is what that does. It's very new. No other character does this, and it's kind of very strong. Essentially, Silver Wolf makes a lot more of your characters viable in a lot more different situations because you enable them to actually be effective against this current enemy. Is this a very strong skill? Yes. because essentially you could run whatever the hell you want in whatever the hell situation you want. Obviously, it's going to be a bit more difficult because if it maybe applies a weakness of the wrong type, maybe if you have too many types in your party, but that's a different situation. Very strong, but that's what it does. Very new, very fun. And the third part of her kit is the ultimate, which does something again completely different. This one is a bit more damage based. So her ultimate does this: deal quantum damage equal to a certain percentage of the Silverwolf's attack to a single enemy, with a 100% base chance to cause entanglement. For each debuff on the enemy, deal additional quantum damage equal to a certain percentage of Silverwolf's attack to the enemy up to 5 times. Right, so more debuffs, more damage. Then when entangled, the enemy's action is delayed by 40%. At the beginning of the next turn, the enemy receives quantum dot damage equal to a certain percentage of the Silverwolf's attack. So it's pretty much a purely damage-based ultimate, but it does have that turn pushback with the entangled effect, right? So overall, a great ability. This character has a lot in just her core kit to take in. I will admit that right now. And for those who are, again, confused by anything, just go back in the video and kind of like go through the sections again, or by all means pause the video and read these things by themselves. It isn't too complex to understand, but it is a lot to take in all at once. But essentially, basic attack applies a bug, which is very helpful. It applies dots that are very helpful. Your skill does the same thing, but it's exponentially more helpful and can make your team a lot more diverse or work in more diverse situations. And then her ultimate is pure damage with a turn pushback, essentially. Simplified, that is what she does. Very powerful, though. In my opinion, very, very powerful. A very powerful debuffer, and it adds diversity to the team, right? But that's that. As for her technique, immediately attack the enemy after entering battle, ignore type weaknesses or weakness types, and reduce the toughness of all enemies. Targets with their weakness broken in this way will become entangled. It's a very powerful one, actually, her technique. I don't, will you use it? I guess. I don't know if it's one that you can use before or after, but essentially, you make the enemies ignore weakness types, right? You will now ignore their weaknesses. So they could be weak to pyro or fire. Now they're weak to everything, right? So it's very strong, but it's like you're using it at the start of the turn. I'm not sure if it's going to be good, maybe because you have waves of enemies. So it's very situational, but a very powerful one at that. Next, going on to the traces, because that's a part of the standard kit. When the Silverwolf is attacked, there's a 50% chance to implant one random bug into the attacker, right? That is when she is attacked, right? So that is fine. That's great. More bug application is always great. Will the Silverwolf be attacked a lot? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on if you have a preservation character, but a 50% chance when the wolf is attacked. Next one, inject, trace 2. Silverwolf's basic attack has a 55% base chance to implant one additional bug to the enemy. So you have more chance to implant more bugs. Again, it is alterable by effect hit rate as it is base chance. So this is going to be an effect hit rate build character, because being able to apply 2 of these debuffs with 1 basic attack is going to be very, very powerful. And then the last trace, Silverwolf's skill is guaranteed to implant a type weakness if the enemy currently has 3 or more debuffs, right? If the enemy has 3 debuffs, your skill will 100% apply a type weakness. Now, this is kind of an arbitrary thing because you're going to be going for an effect hit rate build, so your percentage is going to be so high that you're probably still going to apply it no matter what. It's fine. It's helpful, but not overly helpful because you're going for an effect hit rate build. And by the way, the character is absolutely incredibly powerful standard. A lot of utility, a lot of debuffing, an incredibly large amount of debuffing, and a fair bit of damage, I will say. Her ultimate does deal a pretty decent amount of damage, 324% just guaranteed, with a lot more percentage coming in if you have a lot of debuffs on the enemy, as well as you get a quantum dot at the end. There is a lot of damage, a lot of debuffing. This character is probably right now top 3 in terms of power, top 4 in terms of power, or raw utility, raw value. So great character overall. Let's go into the Eidolons though. Eidolon 1. Bug's duration is extended for 1 turn. Whenever an enemy's weakness is broken, so Wolf has a 65% chance of inflicting a random bug on the enemy. Again, base chance is alterable by effect hit rate, so very good. The bugs will last 1 extra turn, and then if you just break the weakness of enemies, you'll apply a bug, obviously with effect hit rate at a high percentage. Very good. More bug application is always welcome as they classify as dots. The next one, when an enemy enters battle, they reduce their effect effect res by 30%, meaning essentially you have a higher chance of applying debuffs, right? Because their effect resistance is lowered, thus they have a higher chance of it being applied. It's kind of like you're boosting your own, but kind of by reducing theirs. So it's really good, by the way. It's a hard one to understand because reducing their effect resistance is not overly common in, let's say, Eidolons, but it is a very good one for the character as she's all about applying dots. Payload or Eidolon 3, skill +2, talent +2, standard. Eidolon 4, when using her ultimate, Silverwolf regenerates 8 energy for every debuff that the target enemy currently has, up to 5 times. You can get a total of, 40 energy from this, so it's overall really good. It's overall really, really good. 40 energy is a lot of energy, by the way, so nothing wrong with this. A lot of energy return, essentially. It's a bit more return, not really regen, because you use your ultimate to get energy back, so it's a bit of energy return. And then Eidolon 5, ultimate +2, basic attack +1, standard. Eidolon 6, this one is like weirdly strong, but also kind of like, it's hard to understand why it's strong. Eidolon 6, the duration of weaknesses is implanted in enemies by her skill has no turn limit. It's very standard, very minimal, but we have to understand that the weakness stuff that she applies with her skill is type weakness and damage resistance weakness, which is extremely powerful to actually permanently add to an enemy. Just by the mere application of it, the enemy is now permanently weak to something that your team does. And being able to do this with a team where you have multiple elements, because I'm assuming you can apply multiple different type resistant weaknesses, things to the enemy. If you have wind and fire in your team, you most likely will be able to apply both of them to the enemy, making both of your characters now very effective against the enemy. But being able to even do one, let's say you just go for a mono team of quantum and then just like pyro or something, or fire or ice, whatever the hell you choose, permanently apply that weakness is very powerful. You don't have to worry about the duration, the turns. You can now just focus on your bug application and your damage from your ultimate. Very, very powerful in my opinion. One of the few C6s, or E6s rather, that is, I would classify powerful, but honestly, it doesn't look powerful because of how it's worded or like the actual wording of it, but it is very powerful in my honest opinion. So far, the character is absolutely 10 out of 10. I would classify this as probably so far, our strongest debuffer, or one of our strongest debuffers overall. Like in terms of being a raw debuffer, I know there's different types of debuffers, but if I'm talking about debuffing the enemy in terms of taking more damage and stats and whatnot, I'd say Silverwolf is our strongest debuffer right now. Very good character. Now going into the light cones, there's one thing I need to outline here. Is I was informed in our previous one when talking about who was it again? One of the previous characters that we covered, that 3 characters currently don't have. I think it was Luocha, don't have light cones in the beta. Like we won't be able to like get them because they weren't they were there, but they weren't in the gacha. And that's Luocha, Silverwolf, and someone else. I forgot who it was. I believe it was I can't remember for the life of me. But some characters don't have a light cone. They do have one, but we haven't been able to get the stats for it, which is unfortunate. Unfortunate that we can't do that. So it is what it is. But so we're going to go into this under the mindset that their personal one, their signature light cone is going to be their best in slot, but we can't access it, so we're just going to go with the next best thing. So Silverwolf is a Nihility character, so we go to the Nihility section. And in the name of the world is Mr. Welt Yang signature. And by the way, it's going to be fine. Like this one is going to be the best one for like out of what we can see on the screen right now, at least. Obviously hers is going to be better, but for now, in the name of the world is going to be the greatest one. Increases the wearer's damage to debuffed enemies. When the wearer uses their skill, the effect hit rate for this attack increases by a certain percentage, and attack increases by a certain percentage. Overly great. Your skill applies your strongest debuff, and you want that to be 100% success rate. So using your skill, increasing effect hit rate is great. This one is overall 10 out of 10. More damage to debuffed enemies as well as attack increase. In the name of the world is a 10 out of 10 choice, and so is her signature one. Boom. 5 stars out of the way. As for 4 stars, probably any of them. like, to be quite frank with you, this one is flat effect hit rate increase for all your skills and abilities, so it means that your basic attack and your skill are being buffed, which is overly amazing, and all the other percentages that are base percentages are being increased, so that's really, really good. Good night sleep well for every enemy that every debuff that the target has, the damage dealt is increased, so more damage from your ultimate, because that's really the only place where you get like damage and dot damage, as the last part has a quantum dot. That's fine. And then the last one, probably not. After the wearer uses a basic attack or skill, the wearer deals damage as additional random damage to the enemy that is attacked by abilities. Probably not. Your best is going to be Eyes of Prey, followed by Good Night Sleep Well. Eyes of Prey just kind of is very strong. The effect hit rate is kind of what you need. You really do want the effect hit rate so you can have a bit more freedom with your relic set stats, right? So go for that one if you have nothing else. As for this one, probably either of them, to be quite frank with you. They're probably both fine. Maybe Void is better than Loop, but regardless, it's 3 stars. You're not worried about min-maxing, are you? But yeah, 4-star Eyes of Prey, 5-star In the Name of the World, or her signature once it's available. And that is the light cone section done. As for relic sets, as I've said, effect hit rate is very important with her. I'm gonna recommend more utility with this character than I will recommend damage, as I don't think damage is her strong suit, and her ultimate already does a lot of base damage. So for the 4 set of the relic sets, I'm going to recommend the break effect set. Thief of Shooting Meteor. Make her very useful in, let's say, supportive situations where you can break the effect of the enemy. Alright, so 2 set is 20% break effect, and 4 set increase the break effect by 20%. When the wearer inflicts weakness break on the enemy, regenerate 3 energy. You're going to be doing that quite a bit because, well, that's kind of a part of her kit, is doing the weakness break entanglement effect thing. She has that ingrained in her kit. So this is going to be really good. Go for 4 set, Thief of Shooting Meteor. That's the break effect done. As for the Planetary Ornament, I'm going to recommend the effect hit rate from Pan Galactic Commercial Enterprise. The reason I'm going to recommend this is this. It's better to try to get your effect hit rate and these other certain substats through set bonuses rather than it is to get them through actual substats on a piece, right? If you can get all of your potential effect hit rate from your relic sets as well as your planetary ornament set bonuses as well as your light cone, then you can focus all of your other substats on these actual pieces on other stats like speed or a crit rate, crit damage, whatever you want really to build the character. But for set bonuses, I'd say try to get that stuff out of the way. So Pan Galactic Commercial Enterprise increases the wearer's effect hit rate by 10. Meanwhile, the attack increases by an amount that is 25% equal to the effect hit rate up to a maximum of 25%. There's no other, effect hit rate increase here, so that's the best one. That's what I would recommend. If you want to go for more break effect, by all means, Talia Kingdom of Bantry, but my recommendation is Pan Galactic, as it's just kind of what the character needs. And if you can get out of the way without going into substats, even better. So, quick summary on that again. Thief of Shooting Meteor for break effect, make her a little bit more utility against quantum characters. And then for the planetary ornaments, I keep on forgetting their name, planetary ornaments, Pan Galactic Commercial Enterprise is going to be the best in my opinion. So that is that. Silverwolf is an incredibly powerful character. As for if she's the strongest, I'm not sure. A lot of people are saying that Mr. Welt Yang is very powerful. We'll have to see when we get there. I think he's very soon in the list. But yeah, Silverwolf to me right now is like top 3 to top 4 more powerful characters in the game. If you're just looking for value, as soon as you get them, you're going to get a lot of value. I think you are going to get a lot of value out of Silverwolf, specifically at the high end because of the stuff that she provides and a lot of the diversity that she enables your team to do. And that is that. Hope you guys enjoyed. Silverwolf is an absolute unit. Tell me what you think about her in the comments. And also, like the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy the video. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.